This is X.A. Anderson, and this is the Principal Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about what I think may be the most important podcast that we've had and maybe ever will have. And this podcast is about maps versus what's real. So let me give you an example. All of us have an opinion about how the world is. We say, okay, this is how the world really is. But the truth is, the world, despite the way we think it is, there's actual such a thing as a real truth, like how the actual real world works. In other words, I can believe that something's a certain way, but in reality, it may be different. I was visiting a school recently, and I was trying to go into this room. And as I walked into this room, I thought that I could walk into this room, but there was some really good glass there, and I actually bumped into this glass. So even though I thought that I could walk into this room, there was glass in this door, and I bumped into it. And it didn't matter that I thought I could walk in. It didn't matter that I thought that it was real, that I had a clear way. It was kind of embarrassing. I walked in this glass. So here's the thing. If we have a map of the world that doesn't match up with what's really, really there, we're going to have issues. Can you imagine having a map of Nebraska? So you think you're in this nice, beautiful cornfield in Nebraska, but you're really in the Grand Canyon. If your map doesn't match up, you may think I can walk straight along this cornfield. In reality, you might be hitting a 100-foot cliff somewhere in the Grand Canyon. And so it is so important that we try to figure out what's really, really real. Now, I'm a human being. I don't claim to know everything. I really don't. My map could be wrong. But let me tell you one thing that I believe very strongly to be true. And I think it's something that as we read the news, as we read about current events, that we start to think about things in a way. And let me just throw this out here for you to think about. So Neal A. Maxwell said something. He said this. He said, most of the problems that are most vexing are things government can't fix. They have to be fixed at a different level. That's the urgency of our message. Unless we rebuild marriages and families, then we are really just straightening deck chairs on the Titanic. Let's assume for a minute that this map matches up with reality. And I personally think it does. Most of the problems that we fix are vexing us are things that government can't fix. And so when I read the news, a lot of times I read things that say, okay, there was this shooting and we need to have more guns or less guns, or there's this social problem. We need to have more social spending or less social spending. Or we read something about it's this politician's fault or that politician's fault, or this political party's fault or this political party's fault. And so people are always trying to point the finger to this is the problem and this is the problem and this is the problem. But what if those maps are wrong? What if the problems really, really do have to be fixed at a different level? In other words, when we see these social problems, when we see people rioting in the streets, when we see people shooting, school shootings, when we see all kinds of crime happening, is it possible that the real problem happened 20 years ago when there wasn't a good dad in the family to say, son, we're going to treat people with respect? And then 20 years later, because there wasn't a dad there in the home to teach them that, you now have these big crime problems. You have people who are doing horrible things because they needed a dad in the home or a mom in the home or somebody there to teach them how to respect and do things right. So when you read the next news article and it starts to say, these people are the problem, or these people are the problem, or this is the way we fix it, or this is where we fix it, maybe think, I wonder if the real problem happened 20 years ago when this person who they're talking about, or these group of people who they're talking about, maybe didn't have the kind of support in their families that they needed. Unless we rebuild marriages and families, then we are really just straightening deck chairs on the Titanic. That's what Neal Maxwell said, and I believe it to be true. Next time you read a news article, on any news article, and they start to say the problem and the solution is this, I want you to say, wait. Maybe that's the lie part. By the way, whenever I read a news article, anywhere, on liberal, conservative, maybe something that's maybe a little bit of both, I think to myself, most of these articles, a lot of them have a lot of truth in them, but then somewhere in that truth is mixed a little bit of a lie. And so when I say, okay, look at all these problems we have, they'll say something that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. And then they'll say, and the way we fix it is by this. And I guess I'm saying, you know what? Maybe the real problem is that we needed moms and dads to step up 20 years ago. Maybe we needed healthier families, healthier marriages. I got to tell you, I'm on a mission to help as many marriages and families as I possibly can. And I believe that that is what is going to heal and help people in our nation, is to say, you know what, if you want to make a real difference in the world, stop worrying so much about your job. Not to say you can't go out and make money. Go out and make some money. Go support your family. Do that. But realize that all of that's temporary. Your marriage, your family, what you do in your own home is going to last way, way longer than anything you do outside your home. Most of the people who are doing crazy things or going to prison, a lot of them had absent dads, absent, broken families. How can you make your family better today? So instead of always pointing the finger and saying it's these people's problem, or if we just could get rid of these people, or if it was this person or this person or this person, always blaming someone outside, maybe take a look inside and say, what can I do to make my marriage, my family better? I know there's lots of things I could do. There's lots of things that I've done wrong that I could do better in my own family. And I'm trying to inspire you to hear this. And when you read the news, stop thinking about is it their fault or their fault or their fault. Think, what can we do to rebuild marriages and families? How can I be an ambassador for marriages and families? How can I work on my own marriage or my own family and then go inspire others to do the same? Because if we can do that, if we can fix the hole in the Titanic instead of just straightening deck chairs, we may have a shot here, but we got to do it now. And it's long, long overdue. This is, again, one of the most important things I think we could talk about on the Principal Podcast today. Please share this message with as many people as you can. Appreciate you. Go out and be a voice for good marriages and good families. Thanks for joining today. This is X.A. Anderson. Thank you for joining me on the Principal Podcast today. You know, I wrote a book called What I Want My Children to Know Before I Die that has a lot of my thinking and thoughts about the best principles. For those of you going through painful times right now, remember, with Christ, our greatest pain can become our greatest strength. In fact, our pain, I believe, is just our superpower in embryo. And remember, no matter the question, love is the answer. I love you as much as I can for not having met you in person. Thanks for joining me.